I want you to do something for me right now. Just take a second and look at the device you are using to listen to this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Really look at the hardware itself, the screen, the bezel, the camera lens up top, that tiny microphone grill at the bottom.
Right.
It is your connection to the entire world, right? It's your digital wallet, your authenticator, and let's be honest, basically your external brain at this point.
Absolutely. It holds everything.
But what if I told you that the exact architecture designed to make this device so seamless and so intuitive is simultaneously the ultimate attack vector?
Yeah, that's the scary part.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a highly technical briefing document on the docket today. It's simply titled Day 19 Malware and Spyware.
And it is a dense read.
It really is.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to take this research, which covers the latest architecture of silent spying, and map out exactly how these exploits operate at the system level.
Right. We're not just skimming the surface here.
No, we're going to bypass the basic IT 101 stuff. We want to look under the hood at how modern malware manipulates kernels, bypasses hardware safeguards, and exfiltrates data right under the nose of modern endpoint detection and response tools.
And I think to really understand this, it requires a critical shift in perspective for all of us.
How so?
Well, when we look at the notes provided in this briefing, the overarching theme is that the threat landscape has fundamentally mutated.
Right. It's not what it used to be.
Not at all. We are no longer dealing with the noisy, chaotic malware of, say, the late 90s or early 2000s.
The stuff that would just wreck your computer.
Exactly. Back then, a virus was often an act of digital vandalism. It wanted to be seen.
Like it was bragging.
Right. It would brick your machine, flash a giant skull on the screen, or just endlessly replicate itself until the whole system crashed.
I remember those days. You knew immediately when you were infected.
You couldn't miss it. But the true danger of the modern spyware outlined in these documents lies in its absolute, meticulously engineered silence. Complete silence. The entire architecture of modern malware is built around persistence and evasion.
Okay, so it doesn't want to break the toy. It wants to play with it.
That's a great way to put it. These programs don't want to break the device. They want to establish a symbiotic relationship with it.
A parasite.
Yes, a parasite that needs the host machine to remain perfectly healthy, highly functional, and fully connected to the internet.
Because a dead phone doesn't send any data.
Precisely. The longer the host operates normally, the more data the parasite can extract.
Which brings us straight into the core concept the briefing focuses on first, which is the anatomy of silent spying.
Right.
The document defines this as monitoring a device and its user without knowledge or permission.
It sounds pretty basic on the surface.
Yeah, it does. But when you dig into the mechanics of how it actually achieves that silence, it is fascinating and terrifying.
Very much so.
Because we aren't just talking about an app hiding its icon on your home screen.
No, that's child's play.
Right. We are talking about deep system-level evasion. Like when you look at your activity monitor on a Mac or the task manager on Windows.
You expect to see everything running.
Exactly. But you don't see anything suspicious. Why? Because the malware has often hooked directly into the operating system's API.
And for anyone listening who isn't a developer, an API is basically how different parts of the software talk to each other.
Right. So the malware actively intercepts the system's request to list the running processes.
It intercepts the question.
Yes. And it essentially edits itself out of the results before the system can even display them to you.
It's brilliant in a highly malicious way. We were talking about user space and kernel space rootkits here.
Let's break that down a bit. Kernel space.
So by operating at the kernel level, and the kernel is the very core of the operating system, it acts as the bridge between the applications and the actual physical hardware.
It's the boss.
It is the absolute boss. So if the spyware compromises the kernel, it essentially becomes the god of that device. Yeah. So when your highly expensive antivirus software asks the kernel, hey, are there any malicious files in this directory?
The kernel answers.
The kernel, which is now compromised by the rootkit, simply lies. It says, no, everything is totally fine down here.
So the antivirus is fundamentally blind because it trusts the kernel.
Completely blind. And this allows for an uninterrupted, continuous data harvest.
And the briefing is very specific about the scope of this harvest. It's not just grabbing a few files.
Not at all. We are looking at the continuous extraction of login credentials, encrypted messaging databases, local files, your entire browsing history.
Even the incognito stuff?
Often, yes, because it's pulling from the active memory. Plus, precise GPS location telemetry, and session tokens.
The session tokens part is what really caught my eye in the reading.
It's a massive vulnerability.
Because it's not just grabbing a password, right? It's grabbing the cryptographic token that proves you already logged in.
Right. It bypasses the whole authentication dance.
It proves you already passed your two-factor authentication. So the attacker doesn't need your phone to get the text message code. They just take the token and they are you.
Exactly. They clone your authenticated state.
But here is the logistical question that came up for me while reading this. How does it get all of this data out?
The exfiltration.
Right, because if my phone suddenly starts uploading gigabytes of my 4K photos or my entire email database, wouldn't I notice my internet slowing down?
You would think so.
Wouldn't my network administrator at work or even my internet service provider flag a massive, unexplained spike in outbound traffic?
Well, in a rudimentary attack, yes. That would trigger an immediate red flag. But advanced spyware exfiltrates data with surgical precision.
So it trickles it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't just dump a gigabyte of data at once. It chunks the data into tiny, highly encrypted packets.
So it's like nothing.
Right. And it waits. It waits until the device is connected to a trusted, unmetered Wi-Fi network.
Like your home network.
Often late at night, when the device is plugged into the charger and the user is asleep.
That is so creepy.
It gets worse. Furthermore, it disguises its outbound traffic to look like legitimate background processes.
How does it do that?
It might route the exfiltrated data through standard HTTPS ports. So to the network monitor, it is completely indistinguishable from your phone just syncing its background weather data.
Or just pinging an Apple or Google server to check for a software update.
Exactly. The exfiltration is designed to blend perfectly into the background noise of modern digital life. We have so many apps talking to the internet constantly anyway. And because it operates so quietly, the briefing notes these hidden processes can remain active for months or even years. Years without triggering a single system alert.
I just want you to imagine that for a second. Imagine a remote server sitting halfway across the globe, holding a continuous minute-by-minute timeline of your life for the past 2 years.
It's a digital shadow.
Everywhere you've walked, every single search query you've typed, every financial transaction you've authorized.
It is a total compromise of the digital self.
Total compromise.
Yeah.
And if that passive data collection is the foundation, the briefing then moves into something far more active and, frankly, far more invasive.
The sensor hijacking.
Right. The hijacking of the device's physical sensors. Let's talk about the microphone.
The eavesdropper.
The document outlines the mechanical process of this eavesdropping, and it starts with the malware gaining permission.
Which is the hardest part.
Right, because iOS and Android have gotten very aggressive about microphone permissions lately.
They have. You get prompts constantly now.
You get prompts, you get those little orange or green dots in the corner of your screen when the mic is hot. So how is modern spyware bypassing these heavily fortified OS-level protections?
There are a few avenues, and they really scale in sophistication. On the lower end, you have social engineering, which we will dissect deeply in a moment.
Getting the user to just click allow.
Right. But on the high end, we're talking the state-sponsored level. The malware doesn't ask for permission.
It just takes it.
It exploits zero-day vulnerabilities in the operating system's privilege management system.
0 days. Meaning the software developers have had 0 days to fix it because they don't even know the flaw exists.
Exactly. So essentially, the malware finds a tiny, undocumented flaw in the code that handles those permissions. It triggers that flaw to briefly gain root or system-level access.
Just a split second of total control.
Just long enough to silently rewrite the permissions database itself.
Oh, wow. So it alters the master record.
Yes. It effectively tells the operating system, hey, this hidden process here, it is an essential system function, and it has permanent, unrestricted access to the microphone.
So the OS doesn't warn you anymore.
No, because once that database is altered, as far as the operating system is concerned, the process is perfectly legitimate.
So it's not even tricking you, it's tricking the bouncer at the door into thinking it owns the club.
That is the perfect analogy. And once it has that access, the applications are severe.
The briefing lists corporate espionage, domestic spying, political surveillance, and blackmail.
All massive industries.
I was thinking about the corporate espionage angle specifically. You have a C-suite executive who thinks they're being highly secure, right?
They take precautions.
They leave their laptop in their hotel room, they go into a SCIF or a secure boardroom for a highly confidential meeting, and they place their locked, sleeping smartphone face down on the table.
A classic move.
They think the phone is off, the screen is black.
But the phone is never truly off. If the application processor is compromised, the microphone is completely hot.
Even when it looks asleep.
Even then,
Yeah.
the attacker can wake up the audio subsystem without ever eliminating the screen.
So no glow, no notification.
Nothing. They can capture the ambient audio of that confidential merger and acquisition meeting, compress the audio file right there on the device, and stream it back to a competitor in real time.
Or consider the political and domestic applications the text brings up. We are talking about capturing deeply private conversations in the home.
The psychological profile an attacker can build simply by listening to the ambient noise of a target's daily life is staggering.
You don't even have to be talking on the phone. You're just talking to your spouse in the kitchen.
Exactly. They are mining spoken words for vulnerabilities. They are mapping out relationships, understanding your daily routines, and identifying specific leverage points for blackmail.
Which brings us to the visual equivalent, because if the microphone is the easiest way to gather context, the camera is the absolute holy grail.
It gives you the full picture.
Yeah.
Literally.
The briefing dives into camera spying, and the process of hijacking the lens is quite similar to the microphone permissions we just talked about.
Rewriting the database, yes.
But there's one specific detail in this section that fundamentally shatters a long-held security myth for me.
The indicator lights.
Yes. The text notes that advanced spyware can actually disable the hardware camera indicator lights.
It's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of security folks.
Because I have always assumed that the little green or red LED next to a webcam was hardwired, like it was a physical circuit.
A lot of people believe that.
Like if electrical power flows to the camera sensor, it physically must flow through the LED first. How on earth can software bypass a physical circuit?
Well, you aren't entirely wrong.
Yeah.
That used to be the gold standard of hardware design. In older laptops and early webcams, the LED and the image sensor were indeed on the exact same power rail.
Right. A closed loop.
It was a closed loop. You physically could not power one without the other. If the camera was receiving juice, the light was on.
So what changed?
Device aesthetics. As laptops got thinner and the bezels around the screens got incredibly small, manufacturers started relying on microcontrollers to manage the camera modules to save space.
Oh, so it's a tiny computer running the camera.
Exactly. The LED is no longer a simple physical switch. It is controlled by the camera's internal firmware.
Which means it can be hacked.
Precisely. Highly sophisticated malware doesn't just interact with the main operating system. It pushes a malicious firmware update directly to the camera's microcontroller.
It flashes the camera itself.
It rewrites the logic chip on the camera module itself. It tells it to route power to the image sensor to capture the video, while keeping the specific hardware pin that controls the LED explicitly powered down.
That is deeply unsettling.
It changes the entire threat model.
It means the physical fail-safes we rely on are essentially just software suggestions at this point.
Pretty much.
You could be staring directly into the lens, see absolutely no light, and be live streaming high-definition video to an attacker right now.
And the briefing makes a great point about what they're actually looking for when they do this.
Right. It's not just capturing your face for a blackmail photo.
The text explicitly mentions capturing the surroundings and specifically documents on desks.
I think this is a crucial point because it bridges the air gap. We have this mental separation between digital security and physical security.
We think of them as two different worlds.
Exactly. You might think, I'm not going to email this highly sensitive, unreleased product schematic. That's too risky. I'll just print it out and review the hard copy on my desk. It's totally safe from hackers.
But the compromised camera completely negates that physical security.
Because the camera can see the desk.
Right. Your analog secrets become digital liabilities the very moment an infected device is placed in that room.
And cameras are so good now.
A modern smartphone camera has the optical resolution to easily read 12-point font on a piece of paper from several feet away.
So they can just zoom in on whatever you're working on.
The attacker isn't just looking at the target's face. They are utilizing the device as a high-resolution silent scanner. They read the physical documents sitting on the desk. They read the sticky notes on the monitor with the password scribbled on them.
Oh, everybody does the sticky note thing.
Yeah, they do. Or they read the proprietary data on a secondary, completely air-gapped computer screen that happens to be in the background.
So if there is a compromised lens in the room, the physical room is fundamentally compromised.
Yes. There is no air gap if there is a lens pointing at it.
It's the ultimate insider threat, and you willingly brought it in your own pocket.
You carry it everywhere.
But even if you have no cameras and no microphones, say you're working on a desktop with no peripherals, The malware still has a direct pipeline into your thoughts.
Through the keyboard.
Right, through what the briefing identifies as one of the most common and devastating techniques: keyboard logging.
Keylogging is devastating because it operates at the exact point of human-machine interface.
The moment your fingers touch the keys.
The text defines it as recording every single key pressed on a keyboard. But to understand why it's so lethal, we really have to look at where the keylogger sits in the data stream.
Okay, let's map that out.
Let's say you are logging into a highly secure, military-grade banking portal.
Okay.
The website uses TLS 1.3 encryption, you have a secure commercial VPN running, and you feel completely protected.
Right, because we are constantly told that end-to-end encryption is the silver bullet. As long as you see the little padlock icon in the browser, you're safe.
But end-to-end encryption only protects the data while it is in transit across the network.
From the browser to the bank server.
Exactly. A keylogger operates at the endpoint, before the browser even gets the data.
Oh, I see.
Whether it's a user space API hook that intercepts the keystroke messages sent by the operating system, or a kernel-level driver that intercepts the hardware, interrupts directly from the keyboard controller.
It is grabbing the data before the encryption software ever touches it.
Yes. The briefing gives the concrete example of typing email.john@example.com and password.mysecret123.
And the attacker gets exactly that.
The attacker gets that exact string in raw, plain text.
It renders the most advanced network encryption in the world completely moot.
Because the attacker is essentially standing over your shoulder, watching your fingers hit the keys.
It's catching the water before it even hits the pipe.
That's a great way to visualize it.
And it's not just passwords and banking credentials either. Think about the sheer volume of sensitive, unstructured data you type out every single day.
It's a lot more than you realize.
Every search query you type into a medical website. Every time you hit backspace.
The keylogger catches the backspaces.
Right. Every deeply personal text message you draft, reconsider, and then delete before actually hitting send.
They get all of that. The keylogger captures the drafts. It captures the typos.
It captures the raw, unfiltered stream of consciousness of the user.
It really is a window into the mind.
Which leads us to the most critical operational question of this entire deep dive. How does this invisible, highly sophisticated architecture actually breach the device in the first place?
How do they get in?
Right. How do the Trojan horses get through the gates when our devices have so much built-in security?
The briefing emphasizes two distinct vectors for payload delivery here: social engineering and unsafe downloads.
And it breaks down 5 primary infection methods.
This is where the highly technical analysis intersects with basic human psychology.
Because humans are the weak link.
Always. As we discussed with the microphone permissions, exploiting kernel 0 days is incredibly difficult and incredibly expensive on the black market.
They save those for high-value targets.
Right. Is vastly cheaper and honestly far more reliable to simply trick the human operator into bypassing their own security protocols and willingly installing the malware themselves.
Why spend millions developing a zero-click exploit when you can just ask the user to open the front door?
Exactly. Just knock and ask to come in.
The first method the text lists is fake apps. Attackers creating applications that masquerade as games, utilities, or system cleaners.
We see this all the time.
And I really want to push back on this a little bit because people often assume this only happens on sketchy third-party app stores that they would never visit anyway.
That is a very dangerous assumption.
Because we've seen countless reports of malicious apps bypassing the automated security checks of official walled garden app stores, the big ones.
That is a very valid point to bring up. The attackers use a technique called payload staging to bypass those official reviews.
Payload staging. Walk us through how that works.
Okay. The malicious developer submits an app to the official store. Let's say it's a simple functioning QR code scanner.
Something totally innocuous.
Right. The code they submit is clean. There is no malware in the binary, so it easily passes the automated security review and goes live on the store.
So it looks safe to the automated bouncers.
It is safe at that moment, but encoded within the app is a delayed execution script.
A time bomb.
Kind of. Once the user downloads the app onto their phone and opens it for the first time, the app silently reaches out to a remote command and control server.
And that's when it gets nasty.
Yes. It downloads the actual malicious spyware payload into the app's isolated storage space long after the store review is over.
So the user thinks they're giving basic camera permissions to a QR scanner so it can scan a menu at a restaurant.
But They are actually granting system access to a freshly downloaded, fully featured surveillance suite.
It's a digital sleeper agent.
That's exactly what it is.
And the irony of the system cleaner apps that the briefing mentions is just brutal.
Well, it's the oldest trick in the book.
You think your phone is sluggish, right?
Yeah.
So you download a security tool or a memory optimizer to protect yourself and speed things up.
And you explicitly granted deep system permissions.
Because logically, a system cleaner needs deep access to clean the system. You are literally handing the keys to the kingdom to the exact threat you were trying to eliminate.
They prey on the user's desire to be secure. It's very cynical.
Very. Then the briefing moves to the second method, cracked software. Preying on a different human desire, the desire for a free lunch.
Pirated software is easily one of the most consistent distribution vectors for highly aggressive malware.
Because people really don't want to pay for expensive software.
Right. The user thinks they are cleverly bypassing a license check to get a $500 video editing suite or a pricey 3D modeling program entirely for free.
But the teams that crack the software rarely do it out of the goodness of their hearts.
No, it's a business. They modify the installation files to include hidden executable layers.
So it's a bundle.
Exactly. When the user runs the installer, it simultaneously installs the cracked application they wanted, and it embeds a keylogger or a remote access Trojan deep into the system registry.
So you get the video editor, but you also get a permanent spy.
The financial cost of the software was avoided, but the hidden cost is total endpoint compromise.
You pay with your data and your security. The third method is one that I think catches a lot of professionals off guard, and that is email attachments.
The corporate battleground.
The text specifically calls out everyday formats like PDF, docx, and zip files.
The files we use every single day.
Right. We've all been trained since the dawn of the internet not to download an attachment called invoice.exe.
Everyone knows an exe is dangerous.
But a PDF, a Word document, people working in human resources or finance departments open hundreds of those from unknown senders every single week.
It's literally their job to open resumes and invoices from strangers.
Exactly. You can't just tell an HR rep not to open PDFs. So how do these safe formats become weaponized?
Attackers exploit that exact business necessity. You see, these aren't just flat text documents anymore. Modern document formats are highly complex containers capable of executing code.
Like mini programs themselves.
Exactly. Attackers embed malicious macros, which are essentially small automated scripts inside a standard docx file.
And when you open it,
When the user opens the document, Microsoft Word might pop up a little yellow bar at the top asking them to enable content to view the formatting properly.
and people just click it to get their work done.
Without a second thought. The moment they click that, the macro executes in the background. It silently opens a hidden command prompt, runs a PowerShell script, reaches out to a malicious server, and pulls down the spyware payload.
Oh, while the user is just looking at a fake invoice.
Right. Alternatively, the text notes they might use malformed fonts inside a PDF to deliberately trigger a buffer overflow in the PDF reader software itself.
Wait, a malformed font, like the text itself is a weapon.
Yes, the font file is corrupted in a very specific way, forcing the program to execute the attacker's code instead of rendering the document on the screen.
That is incredibly sophisticated. It's weaponizing the very tools we use to do our jobs against us.
And it is.
But even that requires a user action, right? Opening the file, enabling the macro, clicking the button.
Yeah.
The fourth method the briefing details removes the user action entirely. Malicious websites and the concept of drive-by downloads.
This is where things get really scary.
This is where the underlying mechanics of a web browser get turned against us. Explain how simply rendering a web page can compromise an entire machine.
It exploits the staggering complexity of modern web browsers. Browsers use highly optimized engines, like the V8 engine for JavaScript, to compile code on the fly so websites load instantly.
Because we want our pages to load in milliseconds.
Right, speed is everything. A drive-by download targets undiscovered vulnerabilities, those 0 days we mentioned, within those incredibly complex compilation engines.
So how does the trap work?
The attacker injects a small piece of malformed JavaScript into a compromised website. It could be a popular news blog or a local hobbyist forum that has weak security.
Just a normal site you visit every day.
When your browser attempts to parse that specific snippet of code, it triggers a memory corruption error.
It crashes the browser.
Not a full crash, just a micro glitch. The browser gets momentarily confused about where it is supposed to be allocating memory, and the attacker uses that precise microsecond of confusion to write a malicious executable directly into the system's memory architecture.
You don't click a download button,
Yeah.
you don't accept a prompt, you don't authorize anything.
You merely navigate to the URL, the page renders the text and images, and your system is infected in milliseconds.
That feels almost impossible to defend against as a normal user. You are relying entirely on the browser vendor, like Google or Apple, to patch that 0-day before you happen to stumble across a compromised site.
It is a constant arms race between the browser developers and the exploit writers.
Which naturally segues into the fifth and final method, the text outlines. Fake updates.
The classic?
The pop-up claiming your software is dangerously out of date.
It's a purely psychological attack leveraging a false sense of urgency.
We've all seen them, the big red flashing box.
Right. The user is browsing, maybe looking at a news site, the screen locks up, and a highly official-looking, very alarming box tells them their Flash player or system firmware is critically vulnerable.
And it usually has a countdown timer.
To induce panic, panic overrides protocol. The user clicks Install to resolve the supposed vulnerability, willingly authenticating the installation of the spyware.
It's a masterclass in using our own security anxiety as an attack vector.
It absolutely is.
So we have this architecture designed for total silence, delivered through incredibly deceptive psychological tricks or invisible browser exploits.
It paints a pretty grim picture.
It really does. But the briefing doesn't leave us completely defenseless here. It shifts into identifying the body's immune response.
The physical symptoms.
Right, the physical symptoms that indicate a device might be harboring these unseen parasites. Because, as stealthy as this software is, it cannot defy the fundamental laws of physics.
Exactly. Software requires hardware to execute, period.
It requires CPU cycles, memory allocation, and battery power.
And the briefing lists several key symptoms to watch for, starting with rapid battery drain and the device overheating.
And if we connect this back to our earlier analysis of the spyware's architecture, those symptoms make perfect sense.
They do. Think about what the malware is actually doing.
If a hidden rootkit is constantly keeping the microphone active, digitizing that analog audio, encrypting the file, and then utilizing the baseband processor to constantly transmit that data to a remote server.
That requires a massive, continuous draw of electrical current.
It's thermal throttling. The processor is working so hard in the background that it generates excess heat, which the user literally feels through the metal chassis of the phone or the bottom of the laptop.
If your phone is burning hot in your pocket and you aren't doing anything, that is a huge red flag.
The text also lists the device becoming incredibly slow, which, again, comes back to resource contention.
The processor is bogged down handling the spyware's heavy encryption and exfiltration tasks. So when you try to open your email or load a map, the system lags because it's busy serving the master.
You also have to monitor for high, unexplained data usage, according to the document.
Yes. If you look at your network attribution settings and see that a generic system process has uploaded 20 gigabytes of data over a cellular connection in 3 days, you have a severe anomaly.
Something is talking to the outside world a lot.
Way too much. The text also mentions unknown apps appearing or random pop-ups.
Why would a silent spy throw up a pop-up? That seems counterintuitive.
This usually occurs when the initial spyware payload attempts to monetize the infection further. Maybe the data harvest isn't enough, so it aggressively downloads secondary adware payloads, or it enrolls the device in a botnet to mine cryptocurrency.
So it gets greedy and gets sloppy.
Exactly. And crucially, we must pay attention to any unexpected camera or microphone activation.
Right, because even if they attempt to rewrite the camera firmware to disable the indicator light like we discussed, the system isn't always perfect.
Software has bugs, even malicious software.
Sometimes the firmware flash fails, or you catch a brief flicker of the green light before the malware can fully suppress it, or the screen glitches as the audio subsystem is forcefully initialized.
It's your hardware desperately trying to wave a red flag.
To prevent getting to that stage entirely, the briefing introduces a core tenet, what it calls the golden rule.
Unknown app equals unknown danger.
The text insists that unverified software must be treated with extreme prejudice.
It is a solid baseline defense for the average user. The briefing follows this up with a checklist of safe practices that create a defense-in-depth strategy.
Let's run through those.
First, installing apps only from official stores drastically reduces, though as we noted, doesn't completely eliminate, the risk of staged payloads.
It raises the barrier to entry for the attacker.
Yes. Checking developer reputation and meticulously reading app permissions is critical. We established how malware desperately needs permissions to operate.
If a simple flashlight app requests access to your contacts, your precise GPS location, and your microphone, that is a glaring operational security failure.
Deny the permission and delete the application immediately.
But I want to inject a bit of reality here into the golden rule. You say, unknown app equals unknown danger. And the text advises keeping systems updated and using antivirus tools.
Standard advice.
But what about supply chain attacks? We've seen massive global breaches where the official update server of a highly trusted enterprise-grade software vendor is compromised.
The SolarWinds-style attacks.
Exactly. The update is digitally signed, the app is deeply known, the developer is highly trusted. The golden rule doesn't protect you from a compromised official update, does it?
You are absolutely correct, and that is the terrifying frontier of modern cyber warfare. A supply chain attack bypasses the golden rule entirely.
Because it subverts the trust mechanism itself.
Right. If an attacker compromises the code repository of a trusted IT management tool, the malicious payload is delivered to thousands of corporate networks, wrapped in a legitimate, cryptographically signed update.
The ultimate Trojan horse.
However, the safe practices outlined in the briefing, maintaining updated systems to patch those browsers 0 days, employing robust endpoint detection, and avoiding cracked software, they still raise the cost of an attack significantly.
You eliminate the low-hanging fruit.
Exactly. You force the attackers to burn their expensive, highly complex exploits to gain access, rather than just walking through an unlocked door.
Speaking of highly complex exploits, that brings us to the final section of our briefing, which I think is the most impactful part of the document, the heavy hitters.
The big leagues.
The text lists specific, globally recognized spyware tools. We are talking about Pegasus spyware, Finfisher, Predator, Redline Stealer, and Agent Tesla.
We aren't talking about script kiddies in a basement anymore.
This is the industrialization of silent spying.
These names represent the absolute pinnacle of offensive cyber capabilities today. When we discuss Pegasus, which was developed by the NSO Group, we are looking at military-grade cyber munitions.
That's a strong word, munitions.
It's accurate. Pegasus is famous for its zero-click capabilities. We discussed drive-by downloads requiring a user to at least visit a website. Pegasus can infect a device without the user doing anything at all.
Nothing. You don't even have to open an app.
Nothing. In previous iterations, it utilized exploits like forset entry, which targeted the specific way Apple's iMessage parsed certain image files.
Okay, how did that work in practice?
An attacker simply sent a maliciously crafted PDF disguised to look like a standard looping GIF to the target's phone number.
Because you just get a text.
You get a text. The moment the iMessage app received the text in the background, it automatically attempted to render the preview of the image so it could show it to you in the notification.
A little thumbnail.
Yes. That automatic rendering process triggered a memory integer overflow in the parsing library. This allowed the malicious code hidden inside the fake GIF to execute, escape the iOS security sandbox, and grant the attacker full root access to the device.
Without a single click.
The user never clicked a link. They never even opened the message app. The phone simply vibrated in their pocket, and it was entirely compromised from that second onward.
It's terrifying. It feels like magic.
It's just highly advanced math and engineering applied to exploitation.
And the briefing also mentions Finfisher, which operates on a totally different but equally massive scale. We're talking about ISP-level injection here.
Yes, Finfisher takes a network-centric approach. It is often deployed at the telecommunications level.
Meaning the internet provider itself.
Right. Governments or intelligence agencies utilizing Finfisher can work directly with internet service providers to intercept a target's web traffic while it is still in transit.
So they wait at the toll booth.
Exactly. If the target attempts to download a legitimate software update over an unencrypted connection, say, an update for a common media player, the ISP-level equipment seamlessly injects the Finfisher spyware into the download stream.
In real time.
In real time. By the time the file reaches the user's computer, it had been completely weaponized, without the official software vendor ever being compromised.
So you download a clean file from a clean server, and it arrives dirty because the pipe itself is compromised.
Precisely. Then you have Predator, which the document notes has similar capabilities to Pegasus, often utilizing highly targeted single-click infrastructure.
But the text also lists Redline Stealer and Agent Tesla. And these fascinate me because they represent a completely different business model than the state-sponsored stuff.
They do. They aren't million-dollar, highly targeted zero-click.
Oh, they are the backbone of MOS malware as a service.
The democratization of data exfiltration.
Explain how malware as a service changes the threat landscape.
Well, Redline, for instance, is aggressively distributed via those fake cracked software sites or the malicious YouTube descriptions we discussed earlier. It doesn't need to break the OS kernel with a 0-day.
It's cheaper.
Much cheaper. Its primary goal is to quickly and quietly scoop up the active session cookies and saved passwords from your web browsers, package them into a heavily encrypted log file, and exfiltrate them.
And then what? Do they log into your bank?
The developers of Redline don't usually do the hacking themselves. They take those logs and sell them in bulk on dark web marketplaces.
Ah, it's a supply chain of theft.
Exactly. A buyer, a totally different criminal, can purchase your specific active session token for a few dollars. They inject it into their own browser, and they completely bypass your multi-factor authentication.
Because the bank server believes the attacker's browser is your already authenticated machine.
It is a highly lucrative, highly industrialized criminal ecosystem. Anyone can read this capability.
It puts everything we've discussed today into a deeply chilling perspective.
It's a lot to process.
It is. The architecture of silence, the keylogging bypassing encryption, the physical camera hijacking. These aren't theoretical concepts from a cyberpunk novel.
They are very real.
They are the active, daily mechanisms of a thriving, global surveillance marketplace. Let's synthesize everything we've pulled from this briefing for you.
The big picture.
The fundamental takeaway is that modern malware and spyware are sophisticated engineering marvels, explicitly designed for total evasion.
They do not want to be seen.
No. They want to silently monitor, intercept your keystrokes, hijack your physical sensors, and continuously stream your digital life to remote servers without you ever noticing a single glitch.
And they achieve this through deep system integration, exploiting human psychology via fake apps and malicious documents, or by bypassing human interaction entirely through those invisible browser 0-days and 0-click text messages.
Our defense, as everyday users, relies on observing the physical anomalies of our devices, looking for that thermal throttling, noticing the severe battery drain, and strictly adhering to the golden rule.
Treating unknown or unverified applications as critical threats.
While acknowledging that even trusted ecosystems and official updates require relentless vigilance because of supply chain attacks,
we have to maintain that vigilance. It's the only way to operate safely in an environment where the threats are designed to be completely invisible.
Before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to pose a final thought to you, based on the architecture of evasion we've just mapped out.
It's a question that stays with you.
We know these programs are built to produce zero pop-ups. We know they actively hide from system monitors. They throttle their data exfiltration to blend in with normal network traffic, and they can even manipulate the physical hardware indicators to hide their presence.
They're designed to operate in absolute silence for years.
So consider this. If flawless, undetectable silence is the ultimate hallmark of a successful infection, how can you be mathematically certain that the perfectly functioning, quiet device you are holding right now hasn't already been meticulously cataloging every moment of your life for the past year?
A question that fundamentally changes how you look at the screen in front of you.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay vigilant out there, and we'll catch you on the next one.